inspiration behind my theater stems from many, many years of research, trial and error, previous systems, and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. When I bought my house in 2018, I had a very specific vision for what I wanted in a home theater, my home theater in particular. And while that vision is continuously evolving, I'd say 6 years later in 2024, that vision is finally starting to come together. And in many ways, the setup I have now has just far exceeded that vision. When I sit down to watch a movie in my theater, the feeling I get is just pure excitement and joy and a sense of accomplishment. When I bought my house, I had the opportunity to go to a design center and pretty much customize every single detail. And thankfully, I was able to have the builder pre-wire all the speaker locations. So aside from the home being built, everything within these walls was done by me. I installed speakers in the walls and in the ceilings. And then, later I obviously moved to some, higher end speakers with Arendal, but I painted, I mounted the projector. Later, I built a makeshift hush box, which I will improve the final version later. But, I assembled the screen, I built my riser, mounted speakers, installed accent and smart lighting, installed acoustic panels. Literally anything and everything you see in my theater was done 100% by me. Now, is it perfect? No, not at all by any means. I mean, when I look around in this room, I see very, very many imperfections and things that are just still unfinished. So, does it look professional? That's probably debatable. But, not only was I able to save a ton of money going, the DIY route, but also, like I mentioned earlier, I get much more enjoyment out of my theater, and it's just been an incredibly joyous learning experience. When friends or family come over, some of my favorite demo scenes are from movies that, just really have a lot of dynamic range, mainly for audio. So, that's going to be your Ready Player One, Dune, either of the Dune movies, particularly Dune Part 2. I think that movie has the better of the audio of the two Dune movies. But, there's Godzilla Minus One. I mean, that movie is just absolutely incredible. I think Godzilla Minus One is probably the best sounding 4K Blu-ray that there is. It just will absolutely destroy your system. There's Godzilla versus Kong and, Top Gun, just, to name a few. These movies really resonate with me because of just how it sounds in my theater when I'm watching these movies. The clarity, the detail, the dynamic range, the room being pressurized from the 4 subs that I have in here, the immersive bubble with the height channels. And, when I'm watching these movies from some of my favorite directors like Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve, Steven Spielberg, knowing how hard these directors work to make these just epic, grand cinematic movies and the attention to detail that's put into the audio and video to, pull us into their visions, knowing that I've put the same amount of effort into my home theater to preserve and recreate as best as possible the director's intent, that is what resonates with me. I'd say the most challenging part of the design process is probably the limitations of my home, the floor plan. I didn't have the type of money to afford a custom home, so I had to get creative because this is a cookie cutter house. But I'd say the most challenging part was probably trying to figure out how to make my theater feel and sound bigger. So originally the media room was only like 10 by 10, I think, with 8-foot ceilings. And adjacent to this room was another spare bedroom. So I made the decision to blow out the wall in between the two rooms and make one larger room. And probably building the riser was also challenging because I had never done anything like that before, and I did it all myself. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos to help, but, doing it myself and never have done it before, I really only had one shot to get it right with a limited budget. When I'm hosting movie night with friends or family, I want to provide an enjoyable atmosphere. More enjoyable than, going out to a commercial theater that I think for most people these days just doesn't really live up to expectations anymore. I want everyone that comes over to watch a movie to feel like they're walking into another world where they can just sit down, relax, and experience something that they've never experienced before in a home theater. So earlier this year, my cousin and my uncle came over to check out the theater, and I ran through a gamut of some of my favorite demos that I mentioned earlier. And I let them sit in the money seats in the second row, this row right here. And halfway through the demos, I turned around and looked at my uncle, and he stayed quiet for a few seconds, and then he just said, "Wow." He was literally speechless. The look on his face was just absolutely priceless. That's the reaction I love getting. That's the atmosphere. That's the reaction I want to induce when people watch a movie in here. So I'm really the only movie buff in my family and amongst my friends, at least from an enthusiast point of view. I don't really know anyone else outside of YouTube and other content creators that have a legit home theater. So, I've gotten to share so many moments with family and friends over the years. And when a friend or a family member comes up to me and is like, "Hey, can we watch Top Gun in your theater?" Or, a new movie comes out and they say, yeah, we're going to watch this in your theater. That's just a great feeling. My home theater really represents more than just a place to watch movies. It's truly a safe haven for me. It's a place where I can relax, unwind, and be transported to another world for 2 or 3 or 4 hours or more. It's quiet in here, it's calming, and 95% of the time, it's where I watch all of my content, whether that be movies, TV shows, streaming, gaming. I watch YouTube in here, and if I'm not working from home, working out, or sleeping, I'm in my theater pretty much all the time watching some type of content. So when I go to a commercial theater now, it just really drives home how much more enjoyable my personal home theater is. The atmosphere is better, the experience is better. A lot of the times the picture and the sound is better. There's no crying babies or disruptive kids or adults. I can get up whenever I need to and pause the movie so I don't have to worry about missing, part of the movie. And I don't have to pay exuberant prices for snacks or food. It's just a completely different vibe. Now, I do think commercial theaters still have their place and are absolutely necessary for the success of movies and the movie industry. Like, I don't want commercial theaters to go away, and for movies like Dune or Avatar or Avengers Endgame, you really can't replicate that cinematic experience on a massive IMAX screen. But the theater experience just isn't what it used to be. So, when we're able to, as home theater enthusiasts, recreate near identical or even better experiences at home, for most people, it's really hard to justify driving to a commercial theater for a subpar experience. So if I could go back in time and give myself advice from when I first started dreaming about having my own space, I don't think that I would change anything, but I definitely say, just enjoy the experience and never say never. I never thought that I would be where I'm at today, and the journey still continues. Welcome back to the Everything is Bigger in Texas Home Theater Tours. I'm your host, Hatoraid Cowboy, and this is my home theater tour for 2024. Super excited to show it to you. Got some really cool stuff that happened this year. This year was a really good year. So if you watched last year's home theater tour, I talked about some things, some goals that I had for 2024, and a lot of those goals were met. Some weren't, and then some kind of morphed into something else, but we're going to talk about all that. So we'll go ahead and get started and start in the back of the room. So back here, I have my Arendal 1723S monitor, and I have 5 of these. So this is my back left surround. And again, this is the 1723S monitors. I have 5 of these. I have one here, one directly across for the right. And then I have my LCR, which we'll talk about. But this has a 28mm dome tweeter inside of a waveguide, and then you've got two 6.5-inch woofers. Absolutely love these speakers. So that was one of my goals for 2024, was to get all of the same speakers, well, pretty much from the same speaker line. And technically all my speakers aren't from the same speaker line, but they all are Arendal speakers. And yeah, I absolutely love these speakers. My system just went to a completely different level once I got everything Arendal. But yeah, this is the back left surround. I've got it on a Monoprice monolith stand. I don't remember how tall these are. Let me get my tape measure. So the stand looks like it's about 25.5 inches. So we're looking at about 2 feet tall for the stand. And then with the speaker on top, we're looking at exactly 4 feet. So speaker plus stand is exactly 4 feet with the Arendal and the monolith stands. And the stands, you know, I was looking for something robust, and there's not very many stands that could hold the weight of this. I think these are like 36 or 46 pounds, I can't remember. But I found them on the stands. They're pretty expensive. They're like $100 a pop. So I also have, well, I have 5 of these, but I'm only using 4 now since I moved the center channel behind the screen. But yeah, that's that. And then on top of here, I have my Harmony Elite. I'm going to set this to the side. So I have my Harmony Elite remote, and I still love this thing. Still use it every single day. It's still kicking. I originally got this as part of so Logitech Harmony used to have a kind of like a beta program where you could sign up, first come, first serve, and review, like, it was usually their software, but they had this mystery thing that you had to sign up for pretty quick, and I signed up for it, and when I got it, it was the, you know, Elite remote before they had shipped it out. So I did beta testing on this. This thing is still alive and kicking. I keep waiting for the battery to run out one day, but it hasn't. So yeah, I've got something else coming hopefully in January, but we'll see when that actually comes. So I have that here. I use this, and it works fine. Still loving it. Down below, I have the SVS PB 4000. So that's been a beast. That's actually going to be getting rid of it, or it's going to be gone soon. It was actually supposed to be gone yesterday. I'm trying to sell it because I got some other stuff coming and I don't have room for it. So yeah, I'm selling that one, and I'm selling one of my other subs. But the SVS PB 4000, that's sitting here in the back, and there's probably about a good, you know, 4.5 feet between the sub and the back row, the second row. So this actually gives you really good tactile feel, even though it's not right up against the seat. It provides some really good tactile, you know, feel to the back row. And I've actually had my uncle, when he came here earlier this year, he was like, "Are you using any type of like tactile or transducers or anything?" And I was like, "Nope." So yeah, it does its job. In the back corner, I have some acoustic panels. So I have a bass trap from Acoustic, and then I have a acoustic panel also from Acoustic, and then I have a couple of acoustic panels on the wall here. So this wall here was supposed to be an accent wall that was supposed to go all the way past the door, but because of the wall situation, so I don't remember where the wall ended. I want to say it was like somewhere right here, but this used to be all open. So there was no door here, there was no wall on the other side, but I wanted to close off the theater. And so I had a friend come over and he helped me basically close off the room. We put a wall here, put a door, put a wall there. But because the existing wall was already there, when we put the new walls up on this side, the new wall was offset by, I want to say it was probably a good couple, maybe like a half an inch. So it was going to make it really difficult for me to do this and make it flat. So I decided to do something completely different over here. I just put some cheap, acoustic panel squares from Amazon, and then I covered it up. I just covered it up with a curtain because it looks kind of funky. But now this looks kind of funky because you have this accent wall here, and then you have like something completely different. So what I may end up doing is I may just cover this up with a curtain. I have the curtain here. I may cover up the curtain, but then I have to do something with this top part here. So, and then above me, right here, I have the Arendal 1961 height speaker. So I also have 4 of these. So I have 2 for my rear height surrounds, and I have 2 in the middle. The 2 in the middle are not currently being used in my setup right now because in the RMC1 it's a little bit weird. I have 16 channels, but I have to choose between, if I want more than 4 Atmos speakers, I basically lose a couple of those subs. So I'll have to go down to like 1 sub. So those aren't connected right now, but I am going to be getting a mini DSP in the future so that I can run multiple subs and run 6 height channels, specifically for a specific profile on the RMC1, because it lets you do different presets. But I'm also getting a Trinnov altitude 16 and a Trinnov amplitude 16 for review. It's not mine. I don't get to keep it. I didn't purchase it, but I'm going to be getting that in the future. And then I won't need a mini DSP for that. I'll probably just be able to run all 16 channels with the subs, with the 6 height channels. So did that earlier this year, added those. Really excited about that. If you've ever watched a movie that is natively mixed in like a 7.2.6 or like a 9.2.6, those extra 2 height channels makes a huge difference as far as the atmospheric bubble and the ambiance. It's really, really cool. But I have that here. You actually can't buy these anymore. So they discontinued the 1961 line, but they still have the subwoofers, which is kind of weird. I believe this is a 5.5 or 5.25 quarter inch woofer. I was trying to look it up, but it's not on the website anymore. And then I think it's the same 28 millimeter tweeter inside of a waveguide. So I really love these. This is a massive upgrade from what I was using before. Before I was using some some really cheap in-ceiling Polk speakers that I bought when I first moved into the house. The speakers are actually still in the ceiling, but I just mounted the Arendal speakers. What I did was I took some probably like 1/2 inch board, like wood. I cut it, I found the stud in the ceiling, and then I just nail gunned the wood to the ceiling, and then I mounted the speaker to that wood. That way I had, I didn't have this little 2x4 that I had to try to mount into the ceiling. The board is mounted to the 2x4, and then I have basically, a big rectangle that I can mount the speaker mount to. And it works. It works great. It just clears right above the entrance of the door. So, you're not going to hit your head walking in unless you're taller than the door. In that case, you've got other problems walking in here. But yeah, so that's that. I think that's pretty much it for this back corner. I guess let me take you over to the other side and show you what's in the rack. When I made the leap from a hodgepodge Polk setup to Arendal, I knew nothing about the company or the speakers other than, what I had seen on YouTube. So not only was it a blind buy and a complete leap of faith, but it was my first true real upgrade that just really jump-started my home theater makeover process, even if I didn't know it at the time. All right, so this is the rack. And this is a strong rack. I believe I got this from the Grid Hi-Fi earlier this year. So the Grid Hi-Fi is a channel partner. If you see anything in this video that the Grid Hi-Fi is a dealer for, feel free to hit them up. You can hit me up. I'll put you in touch with Chris, that home theater dude at the Grid Hi-Fi. But yeah, I love this rack. This thing is pretty sturdy. It's much better than the one I had before. But we'll go ahead and get started right at the top. So at the top, we have the Xbox Series X, and I've got a couple controllers. I believe I have 3. One's probably sitting over in one of the chairs. But I got this on, well, I pre-ordered this on day 1. Almost didn't get to get it. But I don't do much gaming anymore. I think right now I'm currently playing MLB The Show 24 and one of the latest Jedi, is it Jedi Survivor? I can't remember the name of it. So that's here. I have been playing it a lot more since I've been off the last week of vacation from work, but don't really do a whole lot of gaming anymore. Below that is the Zidoo Ultra HD 8000. So this is Zidoo's flagship 4K media player. I love this thing. This thing is awesome. So this has 2 hard drive bays. I believe you can fit up to 16 terabytes. I have one hard drive in there that's 8 terabytes. I believe that's a red NAS, Western Digital red. Yeah. So I have that in there just so that I can have like really quick access to movie demos that I have stored on there. If I'm doing something like a movie review or something like that, you know, I just have some movies on there that's on a hard drive just in case for whatever reason, you know, internet is down or whatever. Most of the content though, I have 95% of my content is on a home theater PC that I built a couple years ago during COVID. So I have a couple external hard drives plugged up to the computer, and then I have those hard drives shared over the network, and then I'm just streaming everything from the PC to the Zidoo Ultra HD 8000. But this thing is awesome. I haven't found a single file that this thing really can't play. Unfortunately, it doesn't do 3D. They omitted 3D from the latest versions, not sure why. I don't have a 3D projector anymore, so it doesn't even really matter. Below that, I have the HD Fury Vroom. So I just got this a couple weeks ago, probably have had it for maybe about a month. I upgraded over the HD Fury 4K Diva, and actually HD Fury sent this one out to me for review. So I still need to do a review on that one. I'll probably do like a little bit of a comparison between this one and the HD Fury 4K Diva. There's not a whole lot of difference. There's only a couple differences. Mainly this one supports like the full bandwidth of 8K, so HDMI 2.1, whereas the HD Fury 4K Diva I think only goes up to like 18 gigabits per second or something like that. So I'm using that to get Dolby Vision on my projector, as well as, you know, I'm doing a little bit extra stuff, but I'll talk about that later. Next to that, I have the Harmony Hub. So, you know, the Harmony Elite Remote talks to the hub, and then the hub sends out the signals. I have a couple of infrared blasters. One's connected to the Xbox, and I have another one that's a little bit lower down, just to give myself enough space so that the infrared blasters will cover all my devices. But again, haven't really found anything that's surpasses Harmony yet, but hopefully soon. It does have some limitations. This doesn't really do IP. There may be a couple of products that it can send over IP, or it can at least find them when you're, you know, adding a device. But the next remote that I'm getting is going to be IP and be controlled with Home Assistant or Home Assistant integration. And that reminds me, I do have the Harmony Hub connected to HomeKit via HomeBridge. So I am able to get the activities into HomeKit, and if I want to use voice commands to turn on my equipment, or even voice commands to control my equipment, I can do that. I don't do that. Every once in a while in a blue moon, if for whatever reason I just can't find my remote really quickly, I will say the command through HomeKit and I can start the activity, but beyond that, I always use the remote. Next to that is the Apple TV 4K first gen. Below that, I have the Starke Sound Fiera 4. Also just got this in a couple weeks ago. I think I've had this for about a month. So I wanted to start using the 2 middle height channels on my RMC1, but in order for me to do that, I have to create a second profile, because my first profile is a 7.4.4. If I want to use 6 height channels, I have to use 2 of the XLR inputs on the RMC1, which means I lose 2 of my subs, and I would go down to like basically 1 sub, and that's a no-no. So I need to get a mini DSP, but I still needed some more amplifiers, 2 additional amplifiers to run the 2 middle height speakers. So this one has 4. I'm probably only going to be using the 2 on this one, but if the Emotiva RMC1 ever expands to where they can do the expansion models, I can use the extra 2 channels for wides if I ever go that route. So, you know, I'll be talking about that later in the future. Below that, I have the Panamax MR4000. So I'm basically just using that to have extra outlets. Below that, I have the TP-Link 24-port gigabit switch. So I got this because I wanted something that I could rack mount rather than just having the device and a bunch of wires laying around everywhere. I love this. I just wish that the ports were on the back because I have this janky cable management that I have to do, but it's not that big a deal. I don't really care about it. It's in the back of the theater. I care much more about the performance of the theater. Below that is what I still consider to be a crown jewel, is the Oppo UDP 203 4K Blu-ray player. This thing is a tank. It still works. I don't use the 4K disc version very much anymore, hardly ever. If for whatever reason I just can't rip a certain disc, I'll use the disc. But I'm using the HDMI in on this with the Kaleidescape. But yeah, I don't think I'm ever going to get rid of it. It's still an amazing piece of gear. I haven't found anything that really surpasses this yet, and it hasn't been manufactured for what, 4 years now. Then below that is one of the crown jewels in the theater. What I consider to be a crown jewel is the Kaleidescape. I have the server and the player, and as I said, I'm going HDMI in to the Oppo, and the reason why I'm doing that is because for whatever reason the Kaleidescape does not like being hooked up to the HD Fury, and I'm guessing it has something to do with the HDCP. I don't think it likes having a bunch of stuff in the chain, so I was having some audio dropouts pretty like every few seconds. So I decided to just go into the HDMI in of the Oppo, and it works pretty well. So that's the Kaleidescape, and then below that I have the AudioQuest PowerQuest 707 power conditioner. I did a video on that talking about that. Below that is the RMC1. So love this thing. You know, upgraded from a Anthem MRX 720 receiver to an actual processor. And if you've never heard a processor before, or if you have, you've heard a processor versus a receiver, there's a big difference. So they're supposed to be coming out with the new versions probably next year sometime, hopefully. We'll see when that actually happens. But yeah, the RMC1, 16 channels. And then below that, I have the Starke Sound Fiera 8-channel amplifier that's running pretty much all my speakers other than the LCR. So that's an 8-channel. And then below that, I have the Emotiva XPA3 Gen, I believe that's a Gen 2. So 3-channel amplifier that's running my LCRs. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the rack. I put some smart lighting in here, that way I can see, and they are controllable through HomeKit. So, you know, I can control it through voice. I have a button outside, or a switch outside, a Philips Hue switch outside. I can hit a button, turn on the lights. I also have it automated to whenever I pause the movie, the lights come on just for whatever reason if I need to come back here, and then when I hit play, the lights go off. I believe this is a 40U rack unit, or maybe it's a 42. I think the one I had before was a 44U. But yeah, that's everything in the rack. There will be some new stuff in the rack here soon. Supposed to get a Trinom in, and supposed to get a Mad VR core, hopefully the first quarter. So yeah, that is everything in the rack. And then over here, as you can probably see in the shot, is my other Arendal 1723S monitor for my right surround. And then here I have an Ecobee sensor. So I have a couple of these. I have one in my bedroom, I have one in here. And basically what it does is, you know, when I walk in the room, it's smart. It's a smart system, Ecobee. It knows which room I'm in, and then it will basically adjust the temperature based on the room that I'm in, because it has a motion sensor. So when I walk in here, you know, I have it set to, you know, if it gets above 77 or 78, something like that, then I have the AC to come get going. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the rack. Let me take you over to the rest of the room. Kaleidescape is one of a few crown jewels that I'm glad to say that I'm fortunate to have in my home theater. And it's a product that I truly never thought or believed I would own someday. Never thought it was in the realm of possibilities, and yet it sits in my home theater rack. And it's just been an absolutely invaluable, not only as a content creator when I want to review a movie in the highest quality and simultaneously be efficient, but also, you know, just the convenience that it provides for us home theater enthusiasts. All right, so that is going to bring us to my right surround. So this is the Arendal 1961 monitor, and I have two of these. I have one directly across on the other side for my left surround. So as I mentioned before, I don't have a lot of space width-wise. Ideally, I would have liked to have gone with all 1723S monitors for my floor surrounds, but those things are massive, and I have a very limited walkway, you know, coming and going from the front, second row. And so I wanted to get something that was smaller, but within the same brand, you know, kind of in the same line. So I went with the 1961 monitors and have it mounted on the wall. So it has a keyhole mount on the back, and then what I did was I got some drywall anchors, some heavy duty drywall anchors from Home Depot. I think they're like 50 or 75 pound weight limit, and put the anchor into the wall, screwed the screw into the anchor, and then I just mounted this. And I think I put some like rubber pads on the back so that it doesn't vibrate against the wall. But as far as specs, this has, I believe, two 5 and 2.5 1/4-inch woofers, and then you have your 28 millimeter dome tweener inside of a waveguide. These work really, really well and integrate with the Arendal 1723 Monitor S. So, I mean, obviously they're smaller, but you know, when I talked to Arendal, they said that these integrate perfectly. People do it all the time. Again, you can't buy the 1961 line anymore, just because, you know, they stopped making them. But above that, I have a diffuser, cloud diffuser, I believe they're called, from Acoustics. So I have 4 of these. I have one here, and then I have one running, or 3 running across the ceiling. So those have worked out really well. You know, when you're building a home theater, you want to make sure that you have a mix of like different acoustic properties. So, you know, absorption, diffusion, reflection, all that good stuff. Then below that, I have a acoustic panel from Acoustimac. I have another one directly across the way at the same position. And then above that, you'll see my original right surround, which was an in-wall. And that is, I don't remember the model number of that, but that's a Polk audio in-ceiling or in-wall speaker. So I had 2 of these that I was using for my surrounds. And, you know, again, they worked pretty well until I got something else, and I realized that there's so much more better out there. And yeah, so once I got these, I stopped using the Polk surrounds. Again, these are pretty cheap. You can get them on Amazon for a couple $100 for a pair. And yeah, so I've got some lighting here. It's not on right now, but I've got a Govee light there that I use, that I turn on sometimes when I have, you know, like I pause a movie, start a movie. When I pause, the light comes on. When I start the movie, the light goes off. And then if you look up, you'll see another 1961 height channel speaker. So I have 4 of those. I showed you one already. I have another one directly across on the other side. And, you know, before I was also using some Polk in-ceiling speakers that I bought when I first moved into my home. And, you know, I wanted something better. I made a video a couple years ago, did really well, talking about, you know, in-ceiling versus, you know, mounted, and how you're limited with ceiling speakers. You know, the ceiling speaker, in-ceiling speaker is a little bit higher just because it's mounted into the ceiling versus this that's hanging out a little bit more. But with the in-ceiling speaker, you're very limited. It has a rotatable tweeter, but it's not going to cover the whole room. So I can basically rotate the tweeter to either cover the front row or the second row. Now, when I only had 1 row, or what, you know, when I didn't have stadium seating and I only had 1 row, it was fine. But now I have 2 rows and there's multiple seats. You know, I can fit 6 people in here. So I wanted something that was going to be aimable, something that I could, you know, basically have 100% control over. So what I did was I took another, I think this is like a 1-inch block, cut it down to about a square, found the stud in the ceiling, and then I nailed gunned that wood block, painted it, nailed it to the stud in the ceiling, and then I took the speaker mount that's actually a TV mount that I got the idea from Shane Lee. But I got that and I mounted it to the wood block. That way I had pretty much anywhere that I could mount to instead of just, you know, a 2x4. And then mounted to the speaker, and then I just angled it down so that it's almost kind of in between the front and second row. It's right at the back of the front row, but it's aiming down. And when you sit on the front row, you can still hear it. And then everybody else is sitting on the second row, you still hear it. Then I have another one directly across the way. And it works out so much better than an in-ceiling speaker. I mean, much better quality, better drivers, bigger drivers, much bigger sound. So yeah, if you want some good Atmos and you're using in-ceiling, if you have the opportunity to either go to someone's house and hear it, or, you know, buy some and mount them yourself, you can do some A/B comparisons, and I guarantee you'll have much more versatility with a speaker, you know, a monitor or height channel that's mounted on the ceiling, where you can aim it, get a good, you know, speaker mount, or like I'm using a TV mount. If it has the Visa mount on the back of it, then you're pretty much, you know, sky's the limit on what you can do with placement. And then I also have 3 more diffuser panels going across. I wanted to go all the way across the ceiling, but I couldn't because they come down too far to where it would be in the way of the projector screen, or I'm sorry, the projector lens. And Acoustic has some other ones that are just like this, but they're a little bit shorter. And I actually see one of them was about to fall down, so I'm gonna have to take care of that. But I might put some more in the ceiling, on the ceiling. You know, they're a little bit shorter. But yeah, I think that's it. And I don't know if you can see it in the shot yet. So I got this panel here, kind of use it as like diffusion. Did that, I made a video on that. If you want to check that out, you know, I'll post a link in the description. And then I got some cob lighting and put it in the center. And I have the cob lights connected to my Home Assistant through Philips Hue. And so I can control it, play pause. When the, you know, movie pauses, I have the lights to come on. I can have a certain color to come on based on, you know, the device, whether it's Kaleidescape, zidoo, Xbox, or Apple TV. And then when the lights, or when something starts playing, then, you know, the lights go off. So I think that's everything on this wall here. Let me take you to the front of the room. So up front, we've got a lot of good stuff. So we have my 3 LCR Arendal 1723 monitor S. I have one here, I have one over there, and then I have one behind the screen. And we're going to talk about this here in a minute because this is brand new. So I have those 3. We've already talked about those. And then above me, I have the Arendal 1961 bookshelf speakers. So I have 2 of those. I have one here, I have one on the other side for the other front Atmos height channels. So originally the 1961 bookshelf speakers were the first height speakers that I bought, besides, when I decided to upgrade from the in-ceiling speakers. And I'm not sure why I didn't just go with the height channels. For some reason, I went with the bookshelf speakers, and they work fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They work great. So, but I got those, and then when I decided to upgrade the rest of the channels, the other two, for some reason, I was like, hey, they have the height channels. Why don't I just go with that? So they're already angled. It's basically the exact same speaker as the 1961 heights. The bookshelf and the height speakers are the exact same speakers, just the height channels are, they're angled. So that's that. And then here I have the two Starke Sound SW15s up front. You guys are already familiar with that. I still need to make a review for the stacked version. That's on the list. It is going to get done soon, hopefully. Just I have a ton of stuff to catch up on. But I have two of those here. These are phenomenal for the price. Throughout the year, a few times a year, they have them for buy one, get one free, which I've never seen any subwoofer company do. So, that's pretty cool that they do that. Have that here. These are sealed. And then below the screen, I have, well, first let me talk about the curtains. So originally, well, not originally, but I had a mix between some curtains and then I had some black velvet material. At first I bought some black velvet material and I did that, put it behind the screen, put it on the sides. It looked pretty janky though, just because it wasn't one piece. So I had two separate pieces, and you could see it. I could see it in the videos, and it just kind of bothered me. So when I upgraded the screen, I decided I was just going to go with all curtains. So I took down all the black velvet material and I went with these curtains that I found on Amazon. So, you have one curtain there, another curtain here. I've got a curtain over there that I just added, and then I have my window curtains. And then to cover up the space between here, or on the bottom of here, I just took another curtain, and I actually had to get this curtain custom cut on Amazon. Exact same curtains. The black color is a little bit different, so, but when the lights go out, you can't tell. But I just got the curtain, and then I got on the back of it, or on the back side of it, I took a piece of wood that I had and I stapled some of this heavy duty 3M mounting tape, or mounting, I guess it's not really tape, but mounted that, stapled that to the wood, put the wood in the little curtain where you would normally put a curtain rod. And then on the wall, I put the heavy duty mounting pieces there, and that way I can get underneath the screen if I need to, because I have my Arendal, I don't know if you can see, it's pretty dark. I have my Arendal 1723-2V subwoofer under there, and then I've got some cables and stuff. So this is basically just to hide it and to give me easy access. I don't really ever have to get down here, but if I do, it makes it easy for me to just be able to, I guess I'll just leave that off for now. And I decided to put the curtain back up. So I also have some cheap acoustic, I guess they're not really panels, but these like little diffusion looking acoustic squares that I bought on Amazon maybe a couple years ago to put up there. They probably don't help as much, but it's better than, just having a reflective ceiling. I would have done something different. I probably would have just put the black velvet across the ceiling. I may still do that in the future at some point. That's there. And then this is another one of my personal crown jewels, what I would call a crown jewel for the theater. So this is brand new. I've only had this a couple of weeks. This is a 110-inch Seymour Screen Excellence with their top of the line Neo material, acoustically transparent. So before, I had a screen off of Amazon, and the name of it is escaping me, the brand, but I had that screen for 7 years and it served me well. It was fine, but I knew eventually I wanted to try to at least put the center channel behind my screen. I wanted to put all three, but because of the way that the room is, there's a closet right here, and the closet, I want to say inside the closet stops about like right here. So there's a stud directly on the other side, and there's an outlet down there. So that prevents me from putting a speaker there. And then on the other side here, the wall goes all the way to the end, but then there's an angled like slope. So that kind of prevents me from putting all three of my speakers behind the screen. But I knew I at least wanted to put the center channel behind the screen. And I had seen Seymour screens so many times at all these shows, you know, M-Wave, CDA and stuff like that. I knew that I had to eventually go with Seymour. Originally, I wanted to go with a Stewart film screen, just a regular screen, not acoustically transparent. And then I had the idea, I was like, hey, I have a closet behind the screen. I can definitely put the center channel behind the screen. Why don't I just do that? So then I started working on that, started saving up for that, purchased a screen. This border here is pretty thick. I want to say it's like 3 inches. So, you know, I went from a 100 inch screen to a 110 inch screen. I didn't even think that was possible, but you know, the guys at Seymour Screen, they convinced me to try to go as big as possible. I took some measurements and it worked out. So I have a much bigger screen now. I love having the center channel behind the screen. I have, you know, my Arendal 1723 monitor S behind the screen right now, and it sounds phenomenal. Honestly, I didn't think I was gonna hear like a huge difference, because my center channel was probably, my previous screen was probably about right here, and then the center channel was right below that. I never had any issues of it sounding like it was below the screen. But once I put the screen up and I put the center channel behind the screen, it was a big difference. I could tell. I was like, oh yeah, I definitely hear the difference now, and I'm not ever gonna go back. So that's that. This also came with some masking panels, which I will show you, which I'm super excited about. So when I'm watching, you know, these 2, 3, 5 to 1 movies, and you've got that black bar, and so these are labeled. When you come, or if you buy the masking panels, manual masking panels from Seymour, they come labeled. So they tell you which one, and they're magnetically attached. So that one goes there. The other one will go here, just like that. And you can see it magnetically attaches. And then the 2 bottom ones, they have these little, they look like guitar picks. I don't know if you'll be able to see them, but it kind of just helps them sit in the screen. So that one goes there. I'm super excited to have this, because now I don't have to look at black bars anymore. And it actually really does make a huge difference. So when you're watching something, and for some projectors, maybe that, you know, when you see the black bars, they're not truly black, they kind of look gray. This just completely does away with that. And the first time I put them up, I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. And it really gives you a perceived improvement in contrast. So as far as perceived contrast, you're not actually improving the black levels, but our eyes, when you truly black out those bars, it gives you that perceived contrast. And then it looks like, you know, 2, 3, 5 to 1 screen. It looks like I have a scope screen. So these are awesome. You know, when I was debating whether or not I wanted to do them or get them, but I decided, you know, why don't I just get what I want, buy once, cry once. And I'm super glad that I got them. They're super easy. They're magnetic. They go up and then they come off pretty easy. You just pop it off, and then, you know, when you're done watching your 2, 3, 5 to 1 movies, you just take it off. Now, the only thing that sucks is you will have to manually remove them, manually put them up. So I know for movies, whenever, you know, it's a, you know, 2, 3, 5 to 1 movie all the way through, I just put them up before the movie or right after the movie starts, and then I'm done. And then for, you know, regular 16:9 content, I just keep them off just because I don't need them for 16:9 content. So that's that. I've got a couple other acoustic panels. I got another acoustic panel there, bass trap, another curtain. And the reason why I went with curtains is because if you go to like AMC or some of these these, commercial theaters, at least the AMC that I've been going to the past couple of weeks, they have curtains all around the screen. So I was like, oh, well, if it's good enough for the theater, commercial theater, it's good enough for me. So yeah, that's up front. Super excited about this screen. I will be making some content with that, about that as well as the, having the center channel behind the screen. And then I also have the JTR 210 HTs that I will be putting in here after this tour, and I will be reviewing those, so stay tuned so you don't miss any content. I guess now let's talk about the projector. Seymour Screens is another crown jewel for me that the moment I integrated it into my setup, I was like, oh yeah, this is instantly a massive improvement over what I had before. Like, why didn't I make this purchase a long time ago? Being able to put your speakers, or in my case, speaker, behind the screen and still have the highest quality video image without sacrificing audio fidelity cannot be understated. So that's going to bring us to the projector. So this is another 2024 upgrade that I had absolutely no intentions of upgrading. Didn't see it in the forecast, but an opportunity presented itself and I was able to upgrade. So this is the Epson QB1000. So this is brand new for 2024. They just released this a few months ago. I did some coverage of it at CEDIA 2024 back in September. So before I had the Epson LS12000B, which at the time was Epson's flagship projector for the home theater. And then they announced 3 new projectors. So this is basically the entry top tier level or model, the Epson QB1000. They have 2 other models. So if you've seen this, or if you notice, this has the exact same chassis as the Epson LS12000. The only way to tell the difference is this kind of goldish, this muted goldish ring around the laser. And then I believe it's got, I want to say the LS12000B has 2700 lumens. I believe this one is like 3300 lumens or like 3400 lumens, somewhere around there. And also new for this one is we actually get dynamic tone mapping, whereas the LS12000B did not have dynamic tone mapping. It had tone mapping, but it wasn't dynamic. So this is an upgrade. It's an upgrade over the LS12000, and it's also my upgrade over the LS12000. And I know a lot of people, you guys poo-poo on Epson, but it's been a great projector. I've had 3 Epsons so far. So I started off with the Epson 5040UB 7 years ago. Last year I got the Epson LS12000B, and now I have the Epson QB1000, and they've just been improving every single year. And this paired with the Seymour screen excellence just looks fantastic. And I've got more than enough lumens. I've got a light controlled room painted black, so I've got more than enough lumens to just make the screen pop, make the image pop. And really, unless you're watching or using, a comparison, doing a comparison with like a Sony or a JVC side by side, even though it's 4K E-shift, unless you're doing side by side, you're not going to tell the difference. And even then, most people really can't tell the difference. Obviously, JVC is going to have better black levels. Sony is going to be, a lot more detailed. It's going to be a lot more sharp. This one does have a little bit more sharpness over the Epson LS12000. The Epson LS12000 was sharper than the Epson 5040, but there was a little bit of a softness. I didn't mind it. I think the softness has been improved a little bit. I don't have the LS12000B to do a side-by-side comparison, obviously, because I upgraded. But I love the Epson QB1000. And now we finally get those, that dynamic tone mapping. Now we should be able to get, some better blacks, some better contrast with those, those dark scenes. So that's the Epson QB1000. Got to get used to saying that. And again, paired with the Seymour screen, I love the Seymour screen, being able to put my center channel speaker behind the screen. And now, I've got a top tier screen, and what I consider top tier Epson projector. I know you guys are probably going to fight me in the comments and say, oh, Epson's not top tier, but it is for me. So that's the projector. This is my makeshift hush box. It's janky. I know it's janky. You're probably going to comment on it. I don't care. This is temporary. I'm going to build something with my dad, because my dad is, I don't want to say he's a master woodworker, but he's done that his whole life. So he's basically a professional. So, I asked him if he wouldn't mind helping me build something more legit. What I want to do is I want to get something that will cover it up completely. That way I can put a fan on one side for intake. And then I have this exhaust fan here, this AC Infinity exhaust fan that's, sucking out the air. But right now it's just open. I don't really need it to be, closed. I do hear it a little bit, especially after a while, it gets a little bit warmer. The fan will ramp up just a little bit. It's not too bad, but I do want to close it off completely. I want to put a basically like a flap that will open with, some gas shocks. And then I want to put the projector on a surface that I can slide out. So if I need to, if I need to do something to it, if I need to swap out something, cables or whatever, I can just slide it out. It'll be much easier. And then I'll put some theater glass on the front. That way, it can be completely closed off. I won't hear it. And then I'll have the theater glass. And I also want to make it a little bit bigger, just in case if I ever review another projector, maybe I could do a side by side. I don't know. I may just put, a mount in the back for whenever I do get projectors in for review. But right now I really don't have anywhere to put another projector. So that's the projector. Let's talk about the seating. A lot of people poo-poo on Epson projectors because they're still using 4K E-shift. But unless you're looking at a native 4K projector and an E-shift projector side by side in real time, the majority of people will never be able to tell the difference. So now I am in my Valencia Monza seats. So these are brand new. I've literally only had these for a couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm a Valencia guy, and I've always loved Valencia. When friends or family come over to watch a movie, I want everyone that walks in here to be able to have an experience that exceeds going to a commercial theater. And most commercial theater seating is uncomfortable to sit in for an extended period of time. But that's not the case with Valencia theater seating. Everyone that sits in Valencia seats absolutely loves it. And when I only had 2 of their seats in here, I had some friends, some really close friends that would literally run into the theater before everyone else so that they could sit in the good seats. I mean, that pretty much speaks for itself. And, now that all my seats are Valencia, everyone that watches a movie in my theater just gets that same experience. I technically have 6 Valencia seats. There's only 5 in the theater right now just because that's all I can fit. But up front, on the far right, you have your Valencia Syracuse seats. So I have 2 of those. Those are the first Valencia seats that I ever owned, that I bought myself with my own money. I have 1 of those. The other one is sitting in the garage because I'm trying to sell them because I don't have room for the other one. So eventually I would like to get all the same seats up front. And then the second row, I'm probably only going to be able to have 2 just because I don't have the space in the second row. Next to that, I have my 2 Valencia Tuscany Ultimate Luxury Edition, I believe they are. They got to shorten those names. But yeah, so those were originally in the second row where I'm sitting now. And I moved those to the front row when I got the Valencia Monza seating. So I've had a couple of weeks to use the Valencia Monzas, and I really like them. So there's a couple things that I like, and then there's a couple things that I don't like. I love the space. So this one is a little bit wider than the Valencia Tuscanies. So if you're a big guy, if you're a tall guy, if you just need a lot of space, these are really good, but they're really wide. They're a lot wider than the Valencia Tuscany edition. And then I also like, the leather. The leather's very comfortable. It doesn't have the perforations that the Tuscany does. But, you know, I've sat in here for hours, 3-4 hours at a time, haven't noticed anything. You know, it's not like I've gotten hot or that it doesn't breathe or anything like that. I mean, it's leather, pretty nice leather. I like that you have more options for the lights. So, you know, I can turn on the light and then, you know, I can dim it and then I can turn it completely off. A couple of things that I don't like though. So in order to go back to the home position on the other chairs, you know, you typically just hold down the home button. But on this chair, you have to hold down the home button and the headrest. So if you adjust the headrest and maybe a couple of other functions, if you hold the home button, just the home button, the headrest doesn't go back to the home section. I don't know why they did that. I really don't like that, but you know, that's the way it is. And then what also I don't like, now that I've used it for a while, so the headrest I noticed on the Valencia Monzas, it doesn't go up as far as the Tuscany edition. So if I'm laying if I'm sitting in the Tuscany edition and I'm reclined all the way as far as I can, I'm pretty much looking up. But if I adjust the headrest all the way to the front, my head is now looking at the screen. With this one, it doesn't come as forward. It goes up more than it does forward. So when I first got in here and I really started using it after I did the review, I you know, leaned all the way back and then I adjusted the headrest forward and I was still looking up about right here and I was like, what's going on? And then I realized, oh, it doesn't go up as far as the Tuscany edition. So I still have to use a pillow behind my head just to make sure that I'm looking directly at the screen. So that I really don't like. I hope that they change that. But aside from that, you know, I love Valencia theater seating. I saw them on YouTube for years before I actually got some, and I always wanted some. Like I said, I purchased my own Syracuse, and then I started working. I became an affiliate, and they sent me some. What I'm really waiting for is the Barcelona editions. So I'm on the waiting list to get that whenever they promote it. Apparently they have to be like in promotion to get some of the seats. But I'll probably put that on the front row. That has the low backrest, low back, and then I can fit. You know, they have two editions. They have a slim edition, slimmer edition, and they have the regular size edition. But hey, call me a Valencia fanboy. That's exactly what I am, because I love their seats. And you know, whenever you walk into the theater, now that I have all Valencia seats in here, even though they're not all the same, there's a completely different feel. Before I had a couch up front or you know, only had 2 seats. Now I have 3 seats up front. Just had some friends over last weekend and they absolutely loved it. They were like, dude, these seats are awesome. I love your seats, you know, and they remembered, like, you used to have a couch before. This is way better. So that's the seats that I use in my theater, Valencia. I don't really think that that's going to be changing anytime soon. I guess the only other things to talk about is lighting and control. So for lighting, I'm using a mixture of Govee lights, and I have a nanoleaf skylight in the back, and then I have some LED cob lights that I bought that I integrated with the panels on the side walls. I don't remember the brand, but I'm tying everything together through Home Assistant, because the cob lights don't have native support for HomeKit, but they have native support or you can integrate them into Philips Hue. And I have my Philips Hue integrated into HomeKit as well as Home Assistant. So because the cob lights are able to be integrated into Philips Hue, I have my Philips Hue into Home Assistant, and then through Home Assistant, I can expose that as basically like as a switch, you know, like a light switch into HomeKit, and then I can control everything either through HomeKit or Home Assistant. I'm controlling it through both, at least in the theater, because sometimes it acts a little bit weird in HomeKit, and Home Assistant seems to be a little bit more stable. Every now and then the Home Assistant will glitch, but I think it's just the lights. I don't think it's HomeKit or Home Assistant. So I'm using those on the sides. I have a couple Govee lights. I don't know if I'm going to keep them just because they don't have native support for HomeKit either. They don't have Matter support and they don't have native support. And sometimes those will act up a little bit, but they're much more reliable than the cop lights. And then I have the nanoleaf skylights. I have that through Home Assistant, as well as HomeKit. So as far as control, I'm still using the Harmony Elite that I talked about earlier, but I'm using a combination of HomeKit, Home Assistant, and HomeBridge. Actually, I'm not really even using HomeBridge much anymore. I basically have everything integrated through Home Assistant. So, you know, whenever I watch a movie and I start a movie, or if I start an activity, I have the lights to come on to a certain scene, you know, certain percentage, certain color. And then when a movie starts, whether I'm using Apple TV, Kaleidescape, or zidoo, whenever I hit play, all the lights go down, you know, they turn off. My riser lights go to 1% so that you can see it if you need to get up and walk, but it doesn't affect the screen. All the other lights completely turn off. I have my rack lights turn off. And also, I forgot, I am also using another brand of lights, and I can't think of them right now, but I will put them up on screen. So I'm pretty much have about 4 different types of lights in here. But again, you know, when I pause a movie, if I need to get up, go to the restroom, go get something to eat, go get something to drink, I have a certain scene for the lights to come on, certain percentage, certain color. The rack lights come on if, you know, for whatever reason I'm having an issue and I need to go to the rack lights come on. So everything in here is automated. Everything can be controlled via either HomeKit or Home Assistant, and I absolutely love it. I will say, even though I'm a huge HomeKit user, Home Assistant seems to be a lot more powerful and a lot more reliable. I don't really have issues with HomeKit very much, but there are times when I've had some issues and I just decided to go through Home Assistant. But if you use Home Assistant, it is absolutely amazing. I have a Home Assistant green that I'm using. Love that thing. It's incredibly powerful, and it has just been an absolute lifesaver as far as integrating everything with, you know, lights and, you know, smart lighting and, you know, automations and stuff like that. So I have pretty much everything automated. Kaleidescape is automated through Home Assistant. The zidoo is automated through Home Assistant. The Apple TV is automated through Home Assistant. I have some integration with Xbox, but there's not a really whole lot for me to do with that, and I don't game that much anymore. But yeah, man, I think that's everything. Oh, acoustic panels, you know, I talked about some of that already, but acoustic panels, you know, have diffusion, bass traps. I do need to do a little bit more acoustic properties, or yeah, some acoustic properties behind the screen. And I showed you that in the previous video when I was talking about the part 1. So, you know, I do have some other videos, a lot of videos fixing to come out. I have the Epson QB1000 review to do. I need to review the JTR 210 HTs. I need to review, you know, the Starke sound subs, dual, stacked. I have the HD Fiera room that I need to do. I've got a lot of stuff on the docket to do, but I think that's gonna cover it for the home theater tour of 2024. This has been fun. Like, again, many upgrades happened this year. Some things that I didn't expect, some things that I did plan that panned out, and all of it is because of you guys, man. You guys have been super supportive. We're about to hit 11,000 subscribers. Hopefully 2025 is going to be an even better year. I'm about to head out to CES in about 2 weeks, exactly 2 weeks from today. So I'll have a little bit of content for you guys there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the home theater tour for 2024. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. I don't know if this is going to be my last video for the year, but if it is, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.